Good afternoon, Mr. Yadav, Honorable Minister for Environment and Forest, Mr. Krishna Kumar, Trustee, Tata Trust, Mr. Narayanan, Mr. Nitin Desai, uh, Dr. Vibha Dhawan, associates from TERI, members of Darbari Seth family, and all the dignitaries who are attending the webinar today. It is my great honor to be amongst all of you on the special occasion to celebrate the 100th birth anniversary of Sri Darbari Seth, a true leader and a visionary. It wouldn't have been more apt for me than to share my thoughts on the topic which was very close to his heart, energy transition and way forward for India. Mr. Darbari Seth was known to be the man with Midas touch, and he was, as a leader, always much ahead of his times and promoted indigenous industry to build the best in class manufacturing infrastructure. In fact, he was so concerned about the enormous quantity of energy that is being used in chemical factories because of the desalination that was being used over there for water, and to tackle the depletion of natural resources, that he agreed to utilize the share of profits of Tata Group companies for a larger social purpose. And thus, TERI, at that time, Tata Energy Research Institute, was formed in 1974, much before people in the world started talking about climate change and the social responsibility. It was through the work of TERI, which has been there for last nearly more than 3 decades, where they have brought about huge amount of research in the area of energy, climate change, and sustainability. And its relevance is very much there, in fact, more than it was before. Climate change is something which is real, and we are talking about it today because there is a certainty that our activities in last few decades have accelerated the change to a worrisome level, of which we are not very proud of. In the recent weeks, the IPCC report was all over the wires, which flagged that India will face irreversible impacts of climate crisis, and the expected heat waves and humid heat stress will more intense and frequent during the 21st century because of the glacial retreat in the Hindu Kush Himalayas, along with the compounding effects of sea level rise and intense tropical cyclones, leading to flooding along with erratic weather patterns. The Indian Ocean, both Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, is expected to warm much faster than the global average. The Himalayas snow cover has reduced since the beginning of 21st century, and the glaciers have thinned also. We have seen in recent times the spate of flooding and landslide disasters in high mountain regions of Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and Sikkim, which have been triggered by glacier breach sweeping away the valleys, and many projects in the north and northeast have been impacted, killing more than 20,000 people in last 1 year. Furthermore, as per the NASA studies, Indian coastal cities will be submerged up to 2 to 7 feet by the end of the century, putting great threat to the port cities of Mumbai, Mangalore, Kochi, Paradip, Visakhapatnam, and many more. This is not just seen in India, but across the globe, where in last decade, massive fires, floods, and scorching heat waves have been seen, which have impacted the local climate in those countries. Not just in natural catastrophic effects, but the warming world is also affecting agriculture and food security, which is having huge impact for a country like India. What could possibly be the next? The melting of the Arctic permafrost, which releases billions of tons of CO2, or the abrupt transition of the lush Amazon rainforest into a dry savanna. Alarms have already rung across the globe, and we all need to come together to find a solution to this phenomena, which has been mostly human created. Thankfully, we do recognize the power of collective efforts, and this has been seen worldwide. Having faced the imminent threat of COVID, during the global pandemic, how our efforts together have helped in tackling this and coming up with solutions to address the challenge before us. We need much more collaboration going forward. Unlike the COVID-19, this time we know the causes, the stakes, and the benefits of taking proactive measures as early as possible. And what is the way forward if we have to comprehensively address this? Just before the COP26 in November, we have woken to the fact that the world may lose the opportunity to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees, above the pre-industrial levels. The 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees global warming threshold is likely to be breached maybe in the next 20 years. And this is happening when all the countries globally are talking about switching to net zero emissions by 2050, which may be too late. The mitigation and adaptation strategies by nations through the Paris Agreement to keep the global warming under 1.5 or 2 degree are proving very, very insufficient, and we are quite off the target. Without rapidly cutting the carbon dioxide emissions to net zero levels in next 1 decade, we are headed for a 3-degree increase, which will make the weather conditions extreme, which dangerous disruptions in the climate. It is high time that developed countries seal the deal on adaptation finance and clean technology partnerships, and the rest of the emerging economies work to ramp up their plan. But there is some good news. In 2020, in spite of COVID, the growth of renewables exceeded far beyond expectation. About 82% of the global new energy capacity addition came from renewables, with solar and wind contributing nearly 91%, out of which nearly 50% actually came from China and 5% from India. The price of solar PV has dropped 90% since 2010, and so also the price of wind energy has dropped, and the storage solutions. The question being asked, is this good enough? While the power sector, which consumes nearly 17% of the global energy, is poised to source more of renewable energy, the larger chunk of consumption, nearly 51%, comes from heating and cooling, and another 32% comes from transportation, which requires much higher level of carbon reduction. As the world modernization and urbanization takes place and people become more and more aware about their challenges, electric mobility can become the next big thing. It is very essential that we move quickly to the electric mobility so that our share of renewable resources to generate renewable power and use that for electric mobility can keep pace with the changing requirement. I think the way the clean and new technology can play a pivotal role in distributed generation and storage solutions, along with electric mobility, can enhance the pace at which we can reduce the climate change. The 3 Ds of decentralization, decarbonization, and digitalization will help us to disrupt and drive the energy transition in the race to zero. As India grows and our urban population grows in the coming decades, it is expected that we will contribute nearly 20% of the world's urban growth by 2050, which clearly means that we need to double our energy requirement, and also the demand of energy will go up. The question that we need to ask, which energy sources will power India's economic growth? Renewables or fossil fuel? Which actually today accounts for nearly 60% of the country's total primary energy supply. While industries and households, both rich and poor, will be able to get affordable energy if we transition to the renewable energy option only. The choice is of how polluted or clean the Indian environment will be, dependent on the important implications of climate change and health of people. and particularly given the country's heightened vulnerability to climate change due to its reliance on agriculture, proximity to rising sea levels, and high levels of poverty. By 2030, India will have nearly 23 million of electric four-wheelers and 300 million of electric two-wheelers. So the electrification of transportation is a necessity and is very imminent. Also, India is targeting 450 gigawatts of installed renewable energy capacity by 2030. And that a majority of that will be the solar energy. In fact, nearly 60% will be through solar energy, followed by wind. And that gives a great opportunity to India to become the forerunner and position itself to drive the change of renewable energy that will happen in the country. India today is fourth in terms of world, in terms of installed RE capacity, and fifth in solar and fourth in wind. Demand side interventions to enhance consumer participation in energy transition, investment in infrastructure development will enable integration of variable energy and make it something which can be used 24/7, along with the development of green hydrogen, which is expected to get enhanced in the next decade. Renewable energy has grown at a very astonishing pace in recent years, thanks to the plummeting of cost of solar power. India has more than doubled its renewable energy capacity in last 5 years. And this has been driven both by sustainability, but more by the lowering of cost. The requirement is that how do we move towards a larger chunk of renewable energy and create a sustainable solution. The question that comes is, does India have enough resources and technology, and is the supply chain well established to achieve the and secure its green play? While the government is ramping up its plan to promote manufacturing in India, as also renewable policies to support them, but this needs to pick up pace. It will be critical that policies, both economic as well as foreign, are developed together to extract maximum value from India's resource potential and to reduce its dependency on other countries to achieve self-sufficiency. Today, India has world's fifth largest reserves of rare earth material, nearly twice as much as Australia, and has excellent geological potential of rare metals like lithium, tantalum, vanadium, nickel, and the platinum group of elements. But India still depends on others by importing large quantity of its renewable products, whether it is solar cells, modules, or even the wafers that is going into manufacturing of solar panels. And so also in the lithium batteries, where it is still importing a large quantity from other countries. India thus requires technological edge which can be used for processing of these metals and minerals, and the capacity to manufacture renewable products, including batteries and other storage solutions. We need to make India energy secure, and we must consider the need to promote domestic production of renewable technology by supporting manufacturing in both the public and private sector, along with large investment in research and development to harness the available resources. For this, we need to align with global partners, work on industrial reforms, encourage foreign investment. In summation, a sustainable power sector is both necessary and desirable to achieve India's growth in renewable energy. And in this journey, TERI can play a very, very critical and important role, not only in policy area, but also to create an ecosystem of research and development, application engineering, startup and innovation, so as to bring clean and affordable energy to the millions of people in this country. The mantra should be think big, with the objective to make one sun, one world, one grid a reality, so that we can demonstrate leadership in both thought and action in the energy transition in the coming decades, which I am confident we are capable of achieving. Once again, thank you all for the opportunity to be amongst all of you, and my best wishes to Terry for the centenary celebration. Thank you.